Okay, good evening and welcome to Grenada Matters with my co-host, Mr. Earl J. Maitland from the Grenada Empowerment Movement. How are we doing this evening from Grenada, Earl?
Grenada, a pleasant good afternoon to you, Ingram, and to all the viewers. Today we are here. I am doing as fine as one can be at this present time where we face a lot of victimization and corruption on the small island of Grenada, Cargo, and Petit Martinique.
So, what's the subject this evening, Earl?
Okay, so today's topic is civil disobedience. Civil disobedience, according to definition, if one may inquire, it is actually the refusal of one to comply with certain laws or to pay taxes and fines as a peaceful form of political protest. Right, so that is the topic for today, and the major impact that civil disobedience would have on an island such as Grenada, where many taxpayers, many visitors, persons who come to the island of Grenada would be forced to partake in due to the high levels of corruption that we have here in Grenada. Once again, by definition, civil disobedience is the refusal of a person to comply with certain laws or to pay taxes and fines as a peaceful form of political protest, right?
Okay,
And we are also going to look once again at the impact that civil disobedience could have or would have on an island such as Grenada, where many persons' human rights, constitutional rights, lawful rights are being violated by persons in authority. So a pleasant good afternoon to one and all, a pleasant good night, good day, wherever you are in the world, seeing that we are broadcasting from BWTM, which we are thankful for once again. And it is now 6 p.m. in the Caribbean in Grenada. So once again, a pleasant good day. And we do welcome the comments from persons who are viewing. At certain points, we would
and
take
it
questioning,
is now.
and we will definitely have an interactive forum as we go on for the next 56 minutes or so, right? Now, Ingram,
Yes, I'm here. Go ahead.
right? Now, how do you feel about one partaking in civil disobedience?
Well, or civil disobedience or civil unrest. See, when one consistently is being refused their rights, is being refused their what they're entitled to, doing things the right way, following the law, and they see people that are the lawmakers breaking those laws over and over and over again, and that causes frustration. So people, good people of good natures, don't necessarily go out of their way to break the law, but when they feel that the system is against them and the system clearly is against them, they're breaking their own constitutions, they're breaking their own laws through ignorance and through arrogance, then
Mhm.
eventually people take things into their own hands. That's why you see people taking things into their own hands and going and deal with matters and not contacting the police because they have no faith in the police. You see, and then you see people handling matters in a maybe unethical matter or unethical way. However, it's ethical to them because they've waited for the police, and the police have either defended or the police have not acted in a way that's brought justice. So, civil unrest or civil disobedience is caused by leadership not doing what leadership should be doing.
Mhm.
So it seems that the leadership have a do as I say and not as I do mentality, which people ain't going to stand for that. And that's not just in Grenada, that's happening around the world. You've
Mhm.
seen people with this COVID situation. Some people are listening, some people saying, look, hey, I'm going to carry on living my life regardless. I'm not dealing. Some people see it as a scam. I'm not dealing with this. You've always been lying to us. Why should we believe you now? You
Mhm.
haven't. You can't find You can't find a solution to a common cold. You've never had a jab for a common cold, but suddenly something stronger than the cold, you've suddenly got a vaccine for that's going to cure the world.
Mhm.
Really? People ask the question. So, and a person like yourself who's had to deal with being locked out, being ignored, being made of character being humiliated or tried to make a fool of, twist your words, misinterpret the person you are, and basically shut you out from what your rights are and what you're entitled to for being a whistleblower, if we want to say that, then what else can a man do?
Mhm. Agreed, agreed. And one of the key words here is that it is a form of peaceful protest, a form of peaceful protest. And that key word is peaceful. So we are not encouraging, by no means encouraging persons to partake in any crimes of any violent nature or so, where we do understand that persons will feel that frustration and most likely decide to take matters into their own hands, as we have seen over the past couple of years, where we had individuals who would have called on the authorities, in particular the Royal Grenada Police Force, to deal with matters, and because they were not given any justice, um, they actually defended themselves in a way that tantamounted to what one would call murder. Um, but in their case, it would have been there have been situations which unfortunately resulted in murder, where persons defended themselves from violence and so forth. As I can recall, there was a case of a gentleman who lived in Wester Hall, St. David in Grenada, who made numerous reports to the Royal Grenada Police Force. He even utilized the local media stations and the newspaper outlets that we have in Grenada, stating that he has been faced with so many injustices from one gentleman who consistently assaulted him verbally and physically, and on one unfortunate day when he was attacked, that gentleman used a cutlass and took the life of the perpetrator. We are not encouraging anything like that. What we are saying, according to the definition, um, it is the refusal to comply with certain laws, to pay certain taxes and fines in a form of peaceful protest. Now, we have so many injustices in Grenada where persons like myself are refused entry into labor matters, where we have grievances. And according to the Employment Act of Grenada, which is a law that should be properly functioning to protect employees in Grenada, Section 82, where it is stated, clearly articulated, that an employee who is unjustly dismissed or unfairly dismissed or wrongfully dismissed from his or her place of employment should be able, or has a right, I should say, has a right to see the labor commissioner within 3 months of that dismissal, whether that person has a bargaining unit or not. And this is what is said in the Employment Act of Grenada. And the fact that we have a labor commissioner, one gentleman called Cyrus Griffith, who sits in the Ministry of Labor as the labor commissioner, one who refuses many persons and has refused many persons that right to speak to the Labor Commissioner and to go through the process that has been stipulated by the laws of Grenada. It is an insult to the Constitution. It is unjust. It should only be seen as an act of corruption. And persons such as that gentleman and the Oliver Joseph and the Lima Frederick and the now Peter David, who is now Minister of Labor, Lima Frederick being permanent secretary in the Ministry of Labor, they should be charged for dereliction of duty. um, we need to keep in mind when considering the facts that these individuals are public servants who are being paid by the tax dollars of the hard-working citizens and visitors who come to Grenada to enjoy the advertised peace and the security of life and job and everything. And these persons constantly and even currently refuse to do the jobs of their offices, of those prestigious offices. We also have the fact that an individual such as Lima Frederick um, does not only refuse to do her job, but she is a very disrespectful individual who collects taxpayers' money at the end of the month, each month, whilst we have honest, hardworking Grenadians who are unable to secure any form of finance. And it is incredible to see that we have so many offices which have been designed or advertised to be designed to deal with reporting corrupt practices, such as I have described. We have the Ombudsman's Office. We also have the Integrity Commission, the Public Service Commission. We have the DPP's office. We have the Governor General's office, the Prime Minister's office, the Royal Grenada Police Force. We have the courthouse. We have the cabinet. We have the Parliament. We have the Attorney General. We have the Solicitor General. All of these offices, which are not functioning properly. These officers many times will refuse one their right to pursue justice and to obtain justice. To achieve justice is a human right, and it should not be violated, especially by someone who has taken an oath to serve the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. Now, one may ask, what is the function of the ombudsman? And according to the Ombudsman's Act, which is currently a law in Grenada, now the Ombudsman, finding out, upon finding out what is happening, any forms of injustice that is brought to the taxpayers or the citizens of this country, upon finding out, without even getting an individual to come into the ombudsman's office and give a report, they have that legal duty to act or to investigate to ensure that the corrupt practices are ended, right? And what we are seeing on a daily basis, where persons are explaining their the injustices, the oppressions that are brought against them by persons in the public service. It is very disheartening to find out that these offices are actually doing nothing. The Integrity Commission, which has been led for um, a certain amount of time by the wife of the former Attorney General, even when he sat in the office as Attorney General, Mr. Lawrence Joseph. We have Miss Trotman Joseph, who sits at the head of that committee. I do remember having to report some injustices of Mr. Lawrence Joseph to the Integrity Commission, which is his wife. And by all means, the people of Grenada are aware of all the conflicts of interests that are brought on by these marriages and these personal relationships of persons who sit in those prestigious authoritative positions, and their only function, as evident, seems to be covering up all the legalities that are passed on by their spouses to the people of Grenada. This is a form of corruption. Now, even in going to the courthouse, an individual, a law abiding individual such as myself, would have faced so many difficulties based on technicalities that would have been produced by even the high court judges or the magistrates, where we would see individuals who need to be prosecuted due to the corrupt activities that they partake in, that they ensure continues. What we see is that the victim, in many cases, is treated like a criminal, or they are fined or refused that human that that human um not involvement, but that justice that we are all entitled to, that human entitlement, I should say. Um, there is need for many changes. Many persons can agree that changes need to be made in Grenada. Now, how do we get that change that we're looking for? When we look at all the injustices that are happening here in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, when we are looking at that individual, that asylum seeker who has been in prison since last year, August, and he is not a criminal, but he has been placed among persons who have been charged, brought to court, and convicted for crimes, for murder, for theft, for use of narcotics, and so on. We have a gentleman who has come to Grenada to escape persecution from his country, and he was placed at Her Majesty's prison and left there basically, in my opinion, to rot. Um, and he has not been given that constitutional guarantee of the fundamental rights and freedoms according to Chapter 1, Section 8 of the Constitution of Grenada, which is the supreme law of the land, that right to a fair trial. That gentleman was not represented by a lawyer, but yet still, he was brought to court by members of the RGPF prosecutions team, and he was charged and left at Her Majesty's prison. Now, that is rather unfortunate. It is incredible. And I say incredible because it is unbelievable that such a small island as Grenada would be partaking in so many corrupt practices. We have situations where many persons would have gone to many offices to report corrupt activities, um, or even inquired about their rights and their freedoms, and the entitlements that they should have as citizens of this country, as law-abiding citizens of this country, and they have been refused. We also have the fact that the conditions of the roads only add more of a financial burden to taxpayers who continue to try their best to present monies every year to the Royal Grenada Police Force and the Ministry of Finance through the Treasury. And to get a sticker, Ingram, a simple sticker that may cost, let's say, approximately no more than 10 cents US, many persons are paying from $300 upwards, depending on the size of the engine. We are also paying a tax to go onto the road, the inspection fee that we're paying. It is the inspection fee is $75. When you actually do the math and you look at the inspection that has been carried out by the Royal Grenada Police Force, who is in charge of that particular task, it does not add up. There's no proper inspection that is going on, but yet still we are charged $75 to spend 2 minutes, and the vehicles are not properly inspected. When we look at the conditions of the roads, one has to ask, where are all our tax dollars going to? And it is rather unfortunate that the conditions of the roads actually decrease the livelihood of the car parts and so forth. And when we look at the taxes to import vehicle parts, which has raised since the end of 2015 by the Customs Department, one has to continue asking the question, where are all these monies going? The roads are not being properly fixed. There are certain times when we would see the Ministry of Works would deploy some recognizable persons to actually come and just throw some mud in a hole instead of fixing the roads properly. It begs the question, where is the standard? Where is the standard? Is there a standard for the roads and the qualifications of the persons that are being employed? Is there any person that is qualified enough? We have had situations where the Sandal Tunnel, which is an attraction, I'll take that comment shortly, Ingram. So just leave it up there for me, please. Where
Sure.
Sandal Tunnel and Maras Hill were closed at separate times for a significant period. And upon opening, the reopening of those roads actually were not vehicle friendly. They were not able to withstand simple rains that we faced right here in Grenada. And you do have to wonder, where are all the millions of dollars that is said to be spent? Where is it really being spent? Is it really being spent in these projects? Or is it just a next way the government has of exploiting the taxpayers and using their offices to constantly steal money from the hardworking citizens of this country? Ingram, could you put back that comment there, please?
This one?
Right. So there is a comment, a pleasant good afternoon to all the persons that are viewing. We have a comment here. We need an anti-corruption unit. Can we go to the Governor General for something like that? And to answer the question, we have gone to the Governor General's office on many occasions. We have called the Governor General's office on countless occasions. We have also sent emails to the Governor General's office on many occasions. We have left messages with the Secretary of the Governor General. Upon arriving to the residence, that beautiful, expensive residence that taxpayers are being spending money for to house the Governor General, although she does have a home right here in Grenada, Miss Lagrenade refuses to see the taxpayers. She also refuses to do the duties that are mandated by the Constitution of Grenada. And there are particular regulations, there are particular laws that state the duties of the Governor General. She refuses to come out to see the people of Grenada who are in need of ending that corruption, of her assistance. There has been at least 3 times when I went to the Governor General's residence at Point Celine, St. George. and we had to stand outside of the gate, where it was heavily guarded by a police officer or two police officers in a booth, and we left the information. We did request seeing the Governor General. We explained, we articulated on the fact that the corruption also involves the disappearance of a gentleman who was in police custody. This has been over 3 years, I believe. 2 to 3 years, the Governor General has not gotten back to me or any other individual that has gone down there. We do not see the Governor General on any local media platform or any platform, as a matter of fact, speaking about anti corruption units that would be efficient in getting out all of these corrupt persons that are here right in our prestigious authoritative offices. Now, we also have to look at the amount of monies that have been spent over the years or said to be spent over the years for the hospital facilities. And when one goes to the hospital, um, there's hardly any instruments. There's hardly any gauze or bandages or even rubbing alcohol at a general hospital. There are very few persons, midwives, who are able to deliver a baby. Thankfully, we do have a few dedicated officers, sorry, doctors and nurses, a few persons in the staff there who actually leave a lot of consideration and appreciation for lives and for children and so forth. The whole system is flawed. Now, how do we fix a system that is flawed? How do we fix a system where one cannot go to court and actually get any form of justice? And I say this not only in my case, where I did bring persons to the High Court, where I would have been fined by the judge. Stating that I needed to go through the process that was recommended by the Employment Act of Grenada when I presented documentation from even the Ombudsman's office, where they consistently have been writing the Ministry of Labor through the present and previous permanent secretaries there to actually fulfill that same Section 82 of the Employment Act of Grenada. I presented all these documents where there was the burden of proof um, was provided to show that we had persons or that we have persons who still remain in the Ministry of Labor who refuse to do their jobs. And I was still fined. Um, this also reminds me of the case with the former cabinet secretary, Ms. Gemma Bain Thomas, who brought Keith Mitchell, the Prime Minister of Grenada, to the High Court because she was of the reasonable opinion that her job was unjustly terminated. And upon going to court, the court ruled in the favor of Ms. Gemma Bain Thomas. And according to the court, Ms. Bain Thomas was to be paid. She was to be given financial rewards for that injustice she faced at the hands of the leader of this country. To date, I believe a year has passed since that judgment came out. To date, Ms. Gemma Bain Thomas has not gotten any money from the Prime Minister, although the executive arm of the government should be independent and it should abide by the ruling of the legislative of the high courts. We have had the Prime Minister doing many injustices, not only to the people of Grenada, but and asylum seekers, but many other persons. Now, how is it, or how can we, the people of Grenada, at this point in time, besides voting wisely and voting according to policy and integrity, how can we make that remarkable change that would significantly decrease the number of corrupt activities that continue to happen in this country, right? How can we do that? Instead of waiting until 2022 or 2023, until many more persons die at the hospitals due to the failures of the persons who have been employed in the Ministry of Health, persons such as Nicholas Steele. How do we, the taxpayers, actually get proper roads so our vehicles that we spend so much monies for, they would not be damaged by the all of these faulty roads that we continue to face here. How do we get physical planning to do its job when physical planning has allowed a foreign investor to build a hotel, Silver Sands, on the Grandans Beach, although the law in Grenada, the Physical Planning Act, states that no structure shall be erected within 65 meters of the high water mark. But we have Silver Sands being allowed to do so, and we have the Prime Minister of Grenada acting as the defense lawyer for the people in Silver Sands, saying that they made a mistake. No charges were laid against the foreign investor. There not only has there been no charges, but the buildings still remain where they are. The structures that the law prohibits, they still remain where they are. We have a next comment. We need an independent forensic accountant appointed by the opposition or someone or a body that can go up against the government. And it is very sad to say, my friend, that I have also personally traveled to Barbados to engage the United Nations human rights body that is led by one called Michelle Braffett, who I believe to be a Bajan who has been hired to show, acknowledge, and appreciate human rights throughout the region. And it was a waste of time. It was a waste of time um, in the sense that what I was told was the Grenadian government is an independent body. Grenada is an independent country. The United Nations, although there are laws, although there is proof that the government is not fulfilling its duty to the people of Grenada, although the government is violating the rights of Grenadian citizens, although there is a man who was never seen since 2013 after being taken into custody by police, the custody of police. Although these things have happened, the United Nations Human Rights Organization has said to me that there is nothing they can do because the Grenadian government is in control of Grenada, which is very alarming, which is very shocking. And what I would say to the people of Grenada, it is time that we partake in civil disobedience. And again, civil disobedience is the refusal to comply with certain laws or to pay certain taxes and fines as a form of peaceful protest. So I'm not saying to people that they need to go with cutlasses and forks and storm down the parliament buildings or attack anyone. What I'm saying to people is that we need to protest these injustices peacefully. We need to refuse. We need to refuse the continuance of this perversion of justice that has been carried out by the NNP administration and by all public officers who decide that they want to run our public offices like their own private ice cream shop. We need to put an end to this. Now, I have personally been to the Public Service Commission, um, and I was told by one lady sitting in the seat of a public officer. I was told by that public servant that I myself should seek asylum. I should seek asylum instead of that individual actually doing her job, what she's being paid to do. I was told by her that I should seek asylum as a law abiding, tax paying citizen. Now, I have written the Ombudsman's office in one final attempt to continue being a law abiding citizen. I have written the Ombudsman's office to in fact give them the opportunity to correct the wrongdoings of the people who we have in the Ministry of Labor and other offices, as the Royal Grenada Police Force, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Physical Planning, the Ministry of Youth, you name it, there's corruption there. The CBI programs, it is a remarkable mess. One that I cannot believe that anyone would have expected. But I have written the Ombudsman's office on October 22nd. On October 22nd, I believe. Let me just try to get that email, Ingram. Let me try to get that email to verify the date that I
While you're
sent that email.
while you're doing that, brother, there may be people that will say, "Oh, what's this guy's agenda? Every week he's complaining about Grenada's government." You know, people out there from the outside wonder why you always going on about Grenada and the government. Have you got an agenda? Why do you keep going on about it over and over again? People will ask the question who don't know you. Explain.
My agenda is to better Grenada, to ensure that the people, the taxpayers of Grenada, that the people who come to Grenada and live in Grenada, who vacation in Grenada, that they will be treated fairly, that the laws will apply. The laws should not apply um, for a certain class of people, right? It should apply across the board. I have seen no laws in the Constitution that excludes the poor class or the middle class from having the right to work or the right to life or the right
Well,
to
well,
justice
okay,
or right
okay,
to a fair trial.
well, okay.
Ingram?
Today, there was a news story in the UK about the singer or the artist Rita Ora, and she had a dinner with guests at a restaurant, right? When we're on lockdown, and if me or anybody else decided to do that who was not of that status and didn't have that money, would have got locked up and we would have got fined. She'll probably get away with it because she's a star, she's a celebrity. So there's always this rule for the haves and have-nots, you could say.
No, and that is what you would call a breach in the law. That shows that there is a lot of bias to the laws, and bias is what we have. That bias is what we know in Grenada, where persons who are government affiliated, they would be excluded from any prosecution, even when committing crimes. During the COVID period, there was one young reporter who worked with Grenada Broadcasting Network who had a birthday party that went on Facebook Live, and she was arrested and charged by the Royal Grenada Police Force. Um, just weeks after, a couple weeks after, the Minister of Legal Affairs in Carriacou, which is the sister isle of Grenada, which is a part of Grenada, which has to adhere to the same laws that Grenada and Petit Martinique has, she also had a birthday party for herself at her home where many persons were seen on a Facebook video not wearing masks and breaching many protocols that was stipulated by law, but she was never arrested, nor was she charged. She was not removed from that capacity of minister. You know, one would expect that once we have persons who are breaking the laws, that they will be dealt with, that they would be disciplined, that the people of Grenada who continue to pay tax would actually see some sort of 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 justice, some sort of action taken by the officers that have been set up to ensure that even ministers will not be able to break the laws of our country. But we nothing has happened. Um, we have also had the recent case that we dealt with in Ingram, where the doctor and his wife, the foreign doctor and his wife, came to Grenada, and they were said to breach the Quarantine Act because they left their home quarantine before they were allowed to. Now, upon what the court case revealed is that the doctor and his wife, who were said to breach the Quarantine Act, they were told by persons from the Ministry of Health that they were cleared that they tested negative for COVID 19, for that pandemic, and this is why they left home. And what we found out is that they were still charged, although they were given the wrong information by persons in the Ministry of Health, which would have caused their departure from their home. They were still fined $5,000 each. To date, I still await the Minister of Health or the Prime Minister or the Governor General or the Ombudsman or the Public Service Commission to make that announcement and say that the persons or the person who provided the doctor with the wrong information, right, would have been disciplined or sanctioned, whatever the case is, right? This is what I am still awaiting. Now, I wrote the Ombudsman on September 22nd, 2020, on September 22nd, 2020. And I'll just read a short paragraph from that letter that I wrote to the Ombudsman. And it was published in the newspaper, it was published on Facebook, it was sent to the various departments that are relevant to this exploitation, this breach that we continue to face at the hands of corrupt individuals and public officers. And the last paragraph in the letter states, I find it incredible that I continue paying taxes, though I am refused the services I pay for, right? I also find it incredible that the Ombudsman's office can only write Peter David and the PS without awarding them any repercussions each time they act with nonconformity of law. This explains their lack of respect for the Ombudsman's office. I have many times advised this disrespect for the office of the Ombudsman be brought to the attention of the Prime Minister and Cabinet by the Ombudsman. I wish to remind the Ombudsman that I have raised this matter with the Public Service Commission, where I was advised to seek asylum by one Public Service Commission official. It is my hope that I will not have to continue engaging the Ombudsman's office for a fifth year, or nor should I have to seemingly motivate the Ombudsman's office to complete this same matter. One would think a simple labor issue would have been solved by the capable hands of the Ombudsman and or the Ministry of Labor. 4 years and 9 months has already passed. Your office is responsible for ensuring the complaints are dealt with. It is my hope that I would not have to exercise my justifiable right to a series of appropriate behaviors beginning with civil disobedience in the very near future. Now, I have waited from September 22nd, right? From September 22nd to today, November 30th, for a response from the Ombudsman or any of the officers, including the Prime Minister's office, which I have reached out to, which I have visited personally in the ministry, the ministerial complex. To date, there has been no acknowledgement um, of, 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 of their duty to the people of Grenada, to the taxpayers of Grenada. So I have decided, seeing that so much time has passed, and I continue, even though I have been victimized, I have been threatened by Cletus and Paul when he acted in the capacity of, of, of head of security for the Prime Minister. I continued to pay taxes, and I went to the DPP's office and many other offices and articulated the fact that as a taxpayer, I should not be refused. I should not have to be going from office to office and back to the same office each time for 4 to 5 years. But these pleas for morality, for justice, for the Constitution, these pleas have not fallen on deaf ears. They have fallen upon persons who choose to neglect the duties that their officers have, their public officers have. They have chosen to disregard the oaths that they would have taken in order to take over those public offices. So today, November 30th, 2020, I, Earl Maitland, a law abiding citizen, a taxpayer of Grenada, I have decided to partake, just like Martin Luther King would have done, and Malcolm X, and Nelson Mandela, and many other freedom fighters who faced the inadequacy of injustice, of a system created by corrupt individuals. I have decided to partake in civil disobedience. Right? I am currently writing a letter to the Commissioner of Police, alerting him that I am aware once again that he has a duty to prosecute persons under the criminal code, persons who are sitting in public offices, who are stealing monies from taxpayers by reason of employment, because we are having persons sitting in public offices who have jobs to do and they are refusing to do those jobs. Now, I'll make a very simple comparison. Now, if I was to hire a mechanic to fix my car, and I paid that mechanic to fix that car, and 5 years later, or 1 year later, or 2 days later, a week later, that mechanic decided he's not going to fix the car, although he took that money from me, would I have a right to go to the Royal Grenada Police Force and make that report and say, listen, I made this payment to this gentleman and he conned me out of that money? Would the police act? And yes, they would act. They have acted many times in situations such as that, right? We have seen over the news many persons who have been prosecuted by the commissioner of police versus this person and that person. The DPP who acts does not act for the government, but the DPP acts for in conformity with the Constitution of Grenada because he has duties that have been highlighted, right? Now, what we are seeing here, even when Keith Mitchell was told by the court, he was ordered by the court to pay Ms. Gemma Bain Thomas, Keith Mitchell refused. Now, in situations where persons normally refuse to pay any fines that the court instructs. We would hear about police officers driving around with guns in their tools, right? Two van loads of police officers going to St. Paul's or St. David's or to St. Andrews or St. John's to pick up one gentleman who would have been fined $200, $500 for a traffic offense or whatever the case is. We are aware. So why is it that when the court has ordered Ms. Bain Thomas to be paid, or we have other law breakers, why is it that the law is showing this obvious bias for these people? We have a comment here. If everybody continues to keep their mouth shut about all the wrongdoings in Grenada, what is going to happen later on down the road? We need more people to advocate on our behalf. And I do agree, Ms. Shirley Ann, I do agree that we need to speak, right? The Ministry of Health and those in government never own up to their blunders, and that is very correct. That is very correct. Over the COVID period, we have seen Nicholas Steele, Minister of Health, attack persons for the flaws that he would have caused in the system, blaming persons who may not have known better for things that he could have avoided, for breaches in quarantine. I mean, my God, we have had um, 3 cases thus far which have been reported where persons who should have remained in quarantine, who should have been quarantined by our Ministry of Health officials, where they have breached quarantine, beginning with one gentleman who was COVID positive and was able to travel to Morris Bishop International Airport right here in Grenada and take a flight, I believe, Air Canada, and travel the world whilst being COVID free, whilst he was supposed to be quarantined by persons who are collecting taxpayers' monies. Then we had the second case that was reported to the public, right, of that young lad who was said to breach quarantine in St. Patrick's, I believe, somewhere in the northern side of the island. And most recently, we have had the doctor and his wife who were able to breach the quarantine. Now, it is very shocking to know that after these breaches occurred, and let us note that I am saying these are the breaches that we were made aware of, because I am sure there are many more breaches that we have not been made aware of, right? Just as the corruption that is happening in the CBI office and so forth, where we were made aware that there are persons who are international fugitives who now carry Grenadian passports, just as we have had the situation with Charles Luan and many others who would have been proven to be unworthy of holding Grenadian passports, which were provided to them by the Prime Minister's office, by the CBI office. The secrecy is what is causing all of these issues. The secrecy is what is affecting the reputation of Grenada. And each Grenadian, this type of corruption is what has caused the Grenadian people to have to get a visa to go to Canada. Now, it has been said, in the end, I will not remember the voices of my enemies, but I will remember the silence of my friends. It has also been said, where are all the good men when corruption is happening? It has also been said that corruption will continue to be achieved once the good people remain reluctant
Right.
to do anything.
Okay. So now, media. There's quite a few media outlets in Grenada, Earl, online as well. Could you go on those media outlets or the media outlet challenge and go on those media outlets in Grenada and talk to them like you're talking here today? And could you let them know as well, who get lots of attention, show them all the evidence of the issues you've had and the corruption on the island and expose you on their channels too and ask for support? Is that possible, or what would happen?
Well, at this point in time, Ingram, it is impossible. Um, there was an open discussion on Grenada Broadcasting Network where the people of Grenada had the opportunity to publicly interact with individuals, three individuals from the Integrity Commission, which is charged with dealing with corruption in the public service, right? And I personally called in whilst Miss Trotman Joseph and two other persons in the hierarchy of the Integrity Commission were there. And upon engaging those individuals and stating to the public um, that what they are advertising, they are saying to people that once you face corruption, you need to come to the Integrity Commission, blah, blah, blah. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. And I reminded Miss Trotman Joseph and I believe Miss Henry or whatever the next lady is, whatever her name is, I reminded them that when I came to the office of the Integrity Commission, I received no response until approximately 2 weeks after I happened to bounce up Miss Trotman Joseph in a public forum that was hosted by Jerry George, who has unfortunately passed away. And I had to make the threat of exposing the corruption of the Integrity Commission. It was only then that I was contacted by them after launching a report at the Integrity Commission. Also, Ingram, now, I had to remind Miss Trotman Joseph and her team on the local TV station that when I came in to actually give the statement that the officer, the public officer who was taking the statement was actually falling asleep while taking the statement. Right, Ingram? So I had to remind her that the public officer who was taking the statement was actually falling asleep whilst taking the statement.
Yeah,
I
that
also
was
had to
that
remind
that was
Miss Trotman Joseph
that was on
that
TV.
after stating these are the corrupt activities, I was told by Miss Trotman Joseph and her team and the investigative officer, Mr. Finley, that I, a taxpayer, would have to state the laws that were breached by the public servants who breached the law. So I was expected to go through the law books of Grenada, and mind you, we do have many, right? I had to go through each law book in Grenada and state the laws that were breached by the individuals I made the complaint on. Although Ms. Trotman Joseph is a lawyer, and those other persons that would be there, although we are paying Mr. Finley to be the investigative officer. Um, Even with that being done Ingram, um, I was when I did that, Miss Odette Campbell, who I believe manages GBN, they cut me off. I was cut off. I was accused of slander. But the fact remains that the same Integrity Commission over a year ago was able to deny the fact that they refused to do their jobs, what they were paid to do. So what the Integrity Commission did, and it's still on YouTube. I'm not sure if GBN took it down as yet. They actually did an advertisement and stated that they were willing to assist Earl J. Maitland, but Earl J. Maitland is not compliant with the requirements of the Integrity Commission. Can you imagine, Ingram, an individual would be assaulted by a perpetrator Let us say an individual was punched in the face whilst walking, minding his own business. He was punched in the face and he walked into the police station and said to the officers, "Officer, I would like to report that I was assaulted by an individual a few blocks up the road." And the police turned around and said to that victim, "You need to go read the criminal code and come back to us and let us know the exact section of the criminal code which applies to your type of assault." This is what is happening in the Integrity Commission. This is why we do not need to have that obvious conflict of interest where we had um, the acting Attorney General Lawrence Joseph being married to Hernande Trotman Joseph, Lady Hernande Trotman Joseph. And if we look at all of these titles, this is what is exciting to these individuals. The titles being named lady and being named sir or minister or whatever the case is. This is all they are concerned with. And this is what is happening in Grenada. So I have also made attempts to get back onto the airwaves of Grenada Broadcasting Network,
Well,
but I
forget
was
them.
denied.
Forget them. Forget them. I'm talking about the other shows that are well known across Grenada. We know what GBN's about, so forget GBN. Let's move on. What about the other ones? Because all GBN want to do is follow up and do what the government want them to do. So they're puppets for that. They're not media. They're lamestream media. We don't deal with lamestream media. Let's talk about other media outlets in Grenada, so-called media outlets in Grenada. Talk about them.
Right. Now, I can personally tell you, Ingram, and that is one reason why we continue to use Facebook. All of the so-called media outlets in Grenada, they have been censored. They have been censored. They are afraid to print the truth, right? They are afraid to print the truth. Um, I can personally tell you, Ingram, a lot of this has to do with self-serving individuals who have been employed, persons who are in fear by reason of employment. They are in fear that they would be terminated if they were to speak the truth, and that is
So
what is happening.
but
Um,
a lot of these outlets are either funded by the government or they have personal interest in particular political party, whether it be NNP or NDC. They need to move away from that tribalism and just say what is right and what is wrong, rather than what if it's wrong, if it's NNP that do it and I support NNP and it's wrong, I'll turn a blind eye to it. But if NDC do it, well, yeah, it's wrong. Why
uh-huh.
not make it be if it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's right, it's right. And if there's a grey area, let us investigate it further. It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't, it doesn't work like, well, let me say, it should not work like that, but unfortunately in Grenada it does work like that, right? It does work like that in Grenada, where we have so many persons trying to remain in the favors of persons in authority. Now, that is why I say that there are persons who are self serving. There should come a point in life where an individual would recognize themselves as an adult with responsibilities to morality, to duty of office, and so forth. And they should seek the truth, especially as we have said, we have stated, we do know that the fourth arm of government should be the media. Unfortunately, once again, we had George Grant, a gentleman whose only whose only journey in life would have been to bring the truth to the people. Right? That gentleman passed away during the COVID period, and we have lost an icon, one who stood by the truth. We are not here um, unreasonably bashing anyone. That doesn't need to be bashed. We are here speaking the truth. We are saying to people that we have a constitutional right to uphold the laws of our country, of our public offices. We have a constitutional right to speak in the interest of public morality. And with those things being said, it does not matter if you mention Keith Mitchell or Lady Trotman Joseph or Lawrence Joseph or the Labour Commissioner Cyrus Griffith. If we are speaking the truth and we are saying that these individuals do not belong in our public offices because they have perverted the laws of our country, we cannot be sued because this is a fact. This is the truth. This is what the Constitution allows us to do as citizens of this beautiful island, of this beautiful and corrupt island. We have a responsibility to decrease or to work toward ending corruption in our country. We do have that responsibility, right? It is there. It is there. Each citizen has a responsibility, right? Not only to report injustices, but to do what they can to decrease or to end these types of injustices. We are taxpayers. And I often ask the question, Ingram, I often ask the question, why is it that one can only recognize their value as a customer or the value of their money if they go into one of the smaller stores or into KFC and they pay for a wing or a fries? Once they do not get what they are paying for, the service that they are paying for, there would be much, as we say in Grenada, there would be much bacchanal, there would be much argument. Persons will ask to see the managers to say, listen, I paid for two ribs and a fries, but I only received a biscuit. This is not what I paid for. But in Grenada, we are paying taxes. And I often wonder, do people recognize why we are paying taxes? We are paying taxes for certain services. We are paying taxes so that the laws can be executed according to the black and white as they are on the books. We are paying taxes so that we, the human beings in this world, right, the law abiding citizens would be afforded that right to be treated as human beings, right? The right to seek, not only seek justice, but to attain justice. It does not seem as though persons are aware. And that, my friend, is very frightful. It is very frightful. It is one of the major ingredients in this corruption that we have right here in Grenada. Just the fact, Ingram, that we have an asylum seeker who
Hmm.
remains in the confines of Her Majesty's prison since
Yes.
August 2019. It says a lot about the persons in our public offices. It does say a lot about the persons in our public offices. It says a lot about the citizenry as well. It does say a lot about the citizenry as well. And persons need to recognize the saying is very true. Today for me, tomorrow for you. Today, an asylum seeker could be locked up at Her Majesty's prison without any justifiable reason. Tomorrow, it could be any one of us, right? It can be any one of us. I, my friend, have taken the vow today to partake in civil disobedience or civil unrest until there are changes. I am going to refuse to follow certain laws and I am going to refuse to pay certain taxes, those that I can refuse to pay. I am going to refuse to do these things until there is change until our constitution is appreciated and followed by the persons who are collecting the taxpayers' monies. I will no longer be allowing myself to be robbed by these persons who are sitting happily in the public offices, having their bills paid, their gas paid for, their cars paid for, their houses paid for. I am no longer going to allow that. I have given the government going on 5 years, right? It is because of our silence, because of our lack of, of pursuing justice, that we have people like Peter David in office, and we have had that Oliver Joseph, who actually sat in his office and said to me as a young man that he is doing me a favor by seeing me in his office because he does not see people. And it makes me wonder, well, where are all the persons who have been unjustly um, dismissed from their jobs, all the persons who are underpaid? Where are all these people going? Are they going anywhere? Are they not following the laws of our country, that they have a right to go to the Ministry of Labor because they are paying taxes?
These are the
Where
sort of
are
things.
all these
These are the
people?
sort of things, Earl, that the people need to be educated now on before the next election. That's what needs to be happening. People like yourself need to be going into the various villages in Grenada, setting up clinics and talking and open up the debate. This isn't about NNP. This isn't about NDC. This is about your life, my life, and our future on this island. What's going on at the moment? Exposing exposing the nonsense that's going on the island, and start getting people to support what you're doing across the island, until there's so many people that can see the nonsense going on and their eyes are open and they're educated more. It's a lack of education that is causing the ignorance on the island, because when people work together, remember, it's the people on the island that keep these people in a job. If the people turn around and say, no, we don't want you anymore, we're fed up with you, you're incompetent, there's a lack of confidence, it's time for you to go. If the people stood up and say, because remember, the government here to serve the people, the government are there to serve the people. Do you understand?
Yeah, that is correct. That is correct. That is what they took an oath
That is what
to
that,
do,
exactly. So therefore, they
right?
have to
And
serve
and
the
and
people.
and
And
persons
if
who
they,
might not remember that was where we had the swearing ceremonies, where the
yes,
ministers would have placed their hands on the Bible and sworn to represent the people of our nation. They have taken an oath that they continue to neglect, that they refuse to honor, right? When we look at all the people in Ingram
yes,
who are homeless in Grenada, persons who are in need of homes, persons who are refused education because they do not have any monies, persons who are qualified but they cannot get any scholarships. When we look at the fact that we have had persons who have been consistently trying to get onto the farm programs that are
yes,
being offered by Canada and other countries to Grenada, but they
hmm,
have not been successful because we have had the permanent secretary. Her nephew was able to go to Canada and run away, right? And there were other persons who would have qualified and applied before that gentleman. And he ran away from that farm in Canada. And the team of persons who went up with the permanent secretary's nephew was sent back. They had to pay the price for the permanent secretary's nephew. But that information did not come over any local news station, right? And much information such as those. This is why we have to say that the news is censored. We do have a few good journalists. We have Kalistra Faria, Miss Kalistra Faria, who is, in my opinion, is a good journalist. She seeks the truth and she puts the truth out, right? We had George Grant. We have need. We have need for proper journalists. We have the Grenada Human Rights Organization,
Yes.
right, which is led by Milton Coy. Now, many persons in Grenada are not aware that Mr. Milton Coy, um, and Sandra Ferguson, I understand, they are in charge of.
Sandra
Yes,
Ferguson.
yes,
Name
yes.
sounds very familiar.
Pardon?
Name sounds very familiar.
Yes, yes, yes. Now, many persons in Grenada might not be aware, but those two individuals, based on what I was told by Milton Coy himself, they are in charge of documenting all the injustices that Grenadians are facing here in Grenada and presenting it to the United Nations, right? They are in charge. So whatever injustices that we face as Grenadians, it is supposed to be documented and go to the United Nations. It is supposed to be debated on once presented. Now, how many Grenadians are aware of that fact? The Grenada Human Rights Organization, it is just an insignificant organization that has a really, really catchy name. You know, when you listen to it and you hear the Grenada Human Rights Organization, you would actually think that something is occurring.
I
Some
think.
human being whose human rights, basic fundamental human rights, are being violated, that person will
Well,
be
I think.
clearly
I think
represented.
there would need to be asked some questions. There would need to be asked some serious questions as to can you give me case studies where you have fought in the in the advocacy and for an individual in Grenada or a group of people in Grenada who have faced human rights violations and you have been successful with it against the
Mhm,
government, for example. That's
mhm,
the case studies I would like to know from Mr. Milton Coy, where he could give evidence, or whether
mhm.
you're just a human rights uh, commission or whatever you are. So call yourselves, whether you are that in just name but not in deed, because there's a lot of that in Grenada. There's a lot of skeleton work in Grenada where
Yeah,
the name is there, but when it actually comes to you doing the job, you can't actually do the job, or you do the job incompetently.
a lot of people parading Ingram. A lot of people parading to be activists in Grenada. You know, when you look at my achievements thus far, persons who would have had labor issues have gotten justice. Persons who have been brutalized by police officers, they would have gotten justice. Persons at the hospital who were refused service, they got that service.
Yes,
They actually received justice. When you look at persons who would not, who have been, sorry, have been received, refused homes and anything like that, anything that you can speak about or think about that is human rights in Gram. I, as a patriot of this country, would have assisted and in many cases have been successful. There have been those milestones that one would continue to remember, the blockage that I would have faced, that those victims and myself would have faced at the hands of these corrupt individuals who do not, who are not morally persuaded. Those corrupt individuals who allow their egos to guide their decision making, right? And we are speaking about the same type of people, those people in the Integrity Commission, those people in the Ministry of Labor, where many persons continue to complain about.
I
I
have
mean,
some.
Ingram, we have Mr. Worm. There's a gentleman named Mr. Worm in the Bocas in St. Paul's
That's my
who
family.
went, Ingram.
That's my family. Worm is my family, direct
Well,
family.
I will tell you now that Minister Gregory Bowen
That's go.
authorized that Mr. Worm's private land that he pays taxes for to be cut out and pass a road through that land without getting any information, any
Well,
agreement from Mr.
well, I.
Wood,
That's
without giving any compensation.
That's pretty foolish because Worm and Bowen are both family, both members of both blood family. Worm and Bowen.
My brother, there's no family in corruption.
No, there isn't.
There's no
Well,
family in corruption. Right?
sickening,
Mr. Worm went
sickening.
on to at least three editorials of the Informer paper, the New Today. He went on to GBN and MTV, asking Mr. Bowen, Minister
Well,
Gregory Bowen, to do the right thing, to at
hey,
least compensate him for
Earl,
the land that he cut
Earl,
out of.
get Mr. Worm onto the channel. Try and get Mr. Worm onto the channel, please. I would like to talk to him.
I'll try. I will try. I shall
Please, please.
try, Ingram.
Because not just because it's family, but we get him on the channel anyway because that's another thing altogether. There's a long history of George Worm and Mitchell going back and forth through the
Uh-huh.
court system, if you remember. I'm sure
Yeah,
you're aware of that.
I do.
So it looks like the Worm and Mitchell continue.
My brother, are there any comments
I
that you
do
would
want to.
like to read for us?
There is something I would like to make a very, very, very special announcement now. Let me bring myself very quickly to this. This could be good news for you as well, Earl. Right,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, around the world, Grenadians and people watching from around the world, it's official. BWTM as of, let me see the time, as of 11:15 UK time. BWTM Online is now an app on Google Play. Download the app on Google Play. If you've got an Android phone, it's free. Just type in BWTM Online. It's on Google. You can download it and you can watch all the Grenada Matter shows back to front. We've got a Grenada Matter specific area on the app so you can watch all the Grenada Matter shows. Right? Download the app. Get all the people on the island to download the app so you can have the shows live on your phone. So that's for you all. Just want to let you have that piece of information. Just to repeat, BWTM Online is now on Google Play. So you go to the App Store, type in BWTM Online, and you'll find it there. Download the app. It's there, and you'll get to see all these shows plus more on BWTM Online. So just wanted to make that public announcement. Go ahead,
Right.
Earl.
Congratulations, Ingram.
That's an app now, and that app can also go onto a Fire Stick as well. So you can put the app free on a fire. If anyone's got a Fire Stick, you can put on a Fire Stick as well. You can download it on the Android app, and you're all right. You're good to go. So censorship, BWTM Online in terms of Grenada Matters, the show is going to the next level now because we're now on Android, and the next step is to get on Apple TV. Okay, I think that's the end of the show for us because Earl's just cut out. Thank you all so much for tuning in. This has been Grenada Matters. Oh, has he gone? Has he gone? Is he coming back? Earl there? Is he coming back? Is he there? Earl, you're there again.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to say congratulations to you. I would also like to encourage the viewers to download the app. BWTM has a program, Grenada Matters, and this is what we are doing every Monday at 6 p.m. There's also a very educational show, Attorney
Yes.
at Law,
Law,
by
of course.
Erica Willis. That is very informative. That the people of our country, they need to be made aware of their rights, of what the laws are stating. There are many things that are discussed, that are broken down, that are explained, even in a way that the layman can understand. Many infractions of law that we continue to see, that we continue to face. Many times we believe that there is no alternative after we are shut out by the public servants that we speak of. Um, there are, there are. So BWTM has been here with us in Grenada. Ingram has been here with us in Grenada. I have encountered Ingram over the last 4 years, since 2016, and I am thankful that he's taken his time off to actually do what local media stations are not doing. They are censoring the news. Um, we need persons to please like and share the page. We are also encouraging persons to send us your information, send
Absolutely.
us all, all of the injustices that you are aware of. We will personally investigate those injustices and we will bring them to light. BWTM, Ingram, and myself, we are aware of the current status of victimization. We are aware. So, your information, if need be, we will keep that confidential. We will not do anything by any means to discredit the trust that you would have in us. We would not put you in any particular state where um, a bad decision can be made or a legal matter can be brought against you. We are here for the people. We are here to represent justice. We are here to pursue justice and to ensure that justice can be achieved. So, once again, send us your information. If you are aware of any injustices, any infractions in the law, send us the information. We will get that done. We are going to be the voice for the people. We are going to use this program as we have used this program in the past to educate people as to how to conquer this type of corruption. We are going to use this program as we have done in the past to educate persons about the laws which govern our country, be it the Police Act, be it the Constitution of Grenada. Many times we would make references to particular sections. You do not have to remember the particular sections, but once you are aware that it is a law, it will definitely help. It will definitely help. Um, Ingram, once again, my brother, I'm going to try to get in contact with Mr. Worm and try
Thank
to
you.
get him on the program so that people will know that this is what is happening. And I'm going to say to the people of Grenada, once again, we cannot wait until election to speak out. We cannot wait until election to try to make a change. Because at that point in time, by the next 2, 3 years, 2023, when there's a general election, the number of babies that would have died at the general hospital or the number of patients that would die at the general hospital because the Minister of Labor and his assistant are not doing a proper job, the number of people who would remain unemployed and victimized because the Ministry of Labor is doing nothing, the number of people whose vehicles will be damaged and the amount of money that would be spent to import vehicle parts or to purchase vehicle parts at local stations. If we wait, they may not even be a Grenada. We have seen in the past where persons would have been refused entry onto public beaches in Grenada. When we look at the situation that occurred in La Sagesse, then Fort Judy, if we recognized, if we recognize there is a consistent pattern of inadequacies happening that are not in conformity with the laws of our country, with basic fundamental and human rights, entitlements to us as tax-paying citizens, as law-abiding citizens. They are going to continue. They are going to get worse once we remain silent, once we allow these things to happen, they will happen. The government is being paid to recognize the people and their duty to the people. We need to take a stand against corruption from today. Let us do so. Ingram, take care, my brother.
Thank you, Earl, once again. We appreciate you.